Good evening and welcome to The Big Story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin says the government will always respond favorably to the Interpol, even if the administration stance on the ICC remains unchanged.
Bersamin also clarifies President Bongbong Marcos is not in any way blocking the impeachment of Sara Duterte, even if the chief executive is of the opinion that ouster moves against the vice president is a waste of time.
And China wants the Philippines to surface and then withdraw U.S. missile launchers in its keeping, saying the Typhoon system could provoke confrontation and an arms race.
Is the Philippine government softening its stance on the International Criminal Court's investigation on the Duterte drug war? That's the big question. After Justice Secretary Boying Remulla said the Philippines could cooperate with the ICC, but only to a certain extent.
But Malacanang was quick to clarify this. It said what Remulla meant is cooperation with the ICC if the Interpol is acting on the court's behalf.
This early, the camp of former President Rodrigo Duterte is up in arms, saying this softer stance goes against the Marcos administration's promise to never deal with the ICC again. Mobile journalist Kyle Macantan has tonight's big story.
Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin says any request from the ICC made through the International Criminal Police Organization should never be ignored. It's a matter of goodwill, quid pro quo, for what the Interpol has already done and is still doing for the Philippines.
If the ICC makes a move and courses the move through the Interpol, and the Interpol makes the request to us for the arrest or delivery of the custody of a person subject to ICC jurisdiction, we will respond favorably or positively to the Interpol request kasi nagbe-benefit din tayo sa Interpol in other cases. Yung Interpol na pinagbibigyan natin. Kung tayo ang magre-request sa Interpol, hindi na rin tayo papansinin yan. Because that is committee, ang tawag doon Committee, pakikipagkaibigan. You know what that means, no?
But no mistake about it, says President Marcos's alter ego. The government has not changed its mind one bit about rejoining the ICC or providing full cooperation to it as it investigates the war on drugs of former President Rodrigo Duterte.
Ganito yung sa ICC, we have withdrawn from the ICC, membership from the ICC, and that withdrawal is already in effect.
Bersamin's clarification comes after Justice Secretary Boying Remulla said in a Reuters interview that there are certain parts of the ICC's probe where the Philippines can pitch in, cooperate. But Remulla quickly added that, quote, lines have to be drawn properly. Nevertheless, the DOJ chief expressed openness in having a dialogue with the ICC in a very well-defined manner and in a spirit of committee, which Bersamin also used in the context of engagement with the Interpol. Remulla went on to say that there are personalities trying to bridge the divide between the Philippines and the International Court. Before this, the DOJ established a task force on top of case build-up involving extrajudicial killings during the Duterte regime. For former Duterte spokesman and Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo, this is the wrong direction to take for the Marcos administration. He said Remulla is undermining the official position of Marcos when the president repeatedly said that the ICC has no jurisdiction over the Philippines and that any form of cooperation with the International Tribunal is an insult and an assault to the Philippines' territorial integrity. Mobile journalist Kyla Macantan, we are One News.
The latest statement is being perceived as a change of tune for good reason. In the past, the administration had been adamant that it won't be cooperating with the ICC, but this language has slowly eroded. Let's take a look back at some of the president's remarks. Speaking to reporters in Baguio City on February 18, 2023, less than a year after he was elected, he said, I have stated it often, even before I took office as president, that there are many questions about their jurisdiction and what we in the Philippines regard as an intrusion into our internal matters and a threat to our sovereignty. I feel that we have in our police, in our judiciary, a good system. We do not need assistance from any outside entity until those questions of jurisdiction and the effects on the sovereignty of the Republic are sufficiently answered. I cannot cooperate with them.
11 months later, on January 22nd of 2024, President Marcos said, "Let me say this for the 100th time. I do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC in the Philippines. I do not. I consider it as a threat to our sovereignty. The Philippine government will not lift a finger to help any investigation that the ICC conducts. However, as ordinary people, they can come and visit the Philippines, but we will not help them. In fact, we are keeping an eye on them, making sure that they do not come into contact with any agency of the government."
And then on November 14 last year, in the thick of the congressional hearings on Duterte's war on drugs, Marcos said he will not cooperate in any ICC investigation unless former President Rodrigo Duterte permits it. The exact quote was, "If yun ang gugustuhin ni PRRD ay hindi naman kami haharang doon sa mga ICC. Hindi lang kami tutulong. Ngunit kung pumapayag siya na makipag-usap siya o magpa-imbestiga sa ICC ay nasa kanya yun. Wala na kaming desisyon doon." Also, mid-last year, the Justice Department said it was preparing a briefer for Marcos on all scenarios regarding the ICC.
Okay, in other news, but from that same press con, Malacanang also issued a clarification about the impeachment moves against Vice President Sara Duterte. According to Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, while President Bongbong Marcos is requesting lawmakers to set these impeachment complaints aside, he is not exactly blocking them. The president, the ES says, just expressed an opinion that ouster moves will not help anyone at this point.
Let's understand this in the proper context. No? Ang tinanong kay Presidente is, are you in favor of impeachment? Siyempre, hindi niya sasabihin na in favor siya or he's not in favor because that is the prerogative of the Congress. You know that under the Constitution, the impeachment must emanate from the lower house. Okay? Now, if the President has made a statement at all about that process, it is only an opinion. The thinking of the President is that might be distracting us from our agenda and our move forward.
The palace issued this clarification after the Makabayan bloc accused PBBM of blocking the impeachment versus VP Sara. But Bersamin says the executive cannot coerce members of a co-equal branch of government.
We cannot dictate on the lower house. It is a co-equal, it belongs to a co-equal branch of government. All we were saying, the President was saying to the lower house is, this is my position. But he is not blocking. If they decide to initiate, there is no way of preventing that. You remember, many years ago, Speaker Manny Villar, no? When he endorsed the impeachment complaint against President Erap, no one could have prevented him kasi diniretso niya yung impeachment complaint sa Senate. And immediately the Senate acted. That's all. We have autonomy, independence, and so on. We cannot dictate on the other branches of government.
Well, we do know there's a lot of sides to the impeachment case. For one, timing. You can only file it once in a year, and also the upcoming elections. And also, kahit hindi nila sinabi explicitly that the president is blocking it, I mean, he kind of discouraged it, right? The idea of impeaching the vice president at this time.
But I believe Congress should know that they are a co-equal branch, and a suggestion
Of
remains
course.
that. It's just a suggestion, so they can still go ahead and do what they want. In fact, everyone is questioning the move now that it's not being referred to the Justice Committee or to the Office of the Speaker.
Matagal na, nade-delay ba? Yun ang tanong. Kasi we're still waiting for the fourth impeachment
supposedly,
complaint.
and a lot of lawmakers are now doubting the existence
In
of this
theory, yes, they are a co-equal branch of government. But in practice,
Reality.
we do know sometimes they take the signals from Malacanang. You know, it's people don't move unless they have explicit approval, right? So I'm not saying that this is one of those cases. I'm saying what the president says about this does matter a lot. So when we say that it feels like there's a bit of a change of tune, like for instance, he goes from saying, no, an impeachment is not a good idea, to we're not going to block it, that's a change of wording that's
Correct,
significant,
correct, correct.
right? Because all politics is about signaling. So, okay, what are we trying to? That's why we're trying to read between the lines. For the same reason that we were trying to read between the lines with the
Yes,
ICC.
Bersamin and the ICC.
Because we have done interviews on it for all of last year and a little bit of the previous year. And in that whole time, all the officials were telling us, no, 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 they do not have jurisdiction. We will not lift a finger to
Reg,
help them.
I do-
And suddenly, it's like may qualifiers, like, we'll allow it if Duterte
imp-
permits it.
And then
right?
the Interpol thing. Parang yun yung pinaka...
Backdoor. Yeah.
Doon nag-change
Yes,
yung tune.
yes.
When I remember Secretary Boying Remulla, Justice Secretary Remulla said na, you know, if it's the Interpol who courses the arrest warrant
Then
through
what can we
us,
do?
We can't do anything.
Yeah.
And the
Yun
president
yung
is
parang
also
whoosh.
saying, hindi nila haharangan. Hindi nila haharangan
Yeah.
itong ICC. No?
Right.
But what's interesting to me is what Justice Remulla said. Sabi niya, we are already exploring the limits of non-membership to the ICC and the crimes committed prior to the withdrawal. So they are recognizing that
May
before
jurisdiction
we withdrew,
before
may
we withdrew.
jurisdiction,
Yeah.
because we were part of the Rome Statute, right?
Yes.
And
Until
that this
2019.
case in the ICC is legitimate. So it's very interesting. A
Which
huge
is-
change of tone.
Which is also a departure from what Duterte had insisted. When Duterte withdrew the Philippines from the ICC, he had insisted, no, that's the end of it. They absolutely had no jurisdiction over what happened in the past, although of course legally they do. But the previous administration was insisting, no, they can't do anything now.
But you know, since those times, Reg, to be fair, I think we made it pretty clear, not just us here, but everybody in the media, pundits, they've made it clear that everything until the withdrawal in 2019 still
It's
is
fair
still
game.
count. Yeah,
Right.
it's fair game.
Well, another thing that Justice Remulla said, that he was admitting shortcomings in our own justice system and that we want to do justice for everyone. I mean, that's already, already a testament as to why this investigation is merited, because we can't do the investigations here with ourselves, with the justice system that
existing
we
system.
have, and also the perpetrators involved,
Right.
which could
How-
possibly be law enforcement.
Right. But if we talk about like what happened in Congress yesterday and the other day, that they're talking about forming a commission just to investigate or re-investigate, you know, these crimes against humanity
EJ case.
and EJ case
Yeah.
in general, you know, that could also change the game. What if all of a sudden that committee is formed, that task force is formed, and they are able to re-investigate? Then that will again throw into question, like, kailangan pa ba natin ng ICC if we're now re-investigating
Right.
it?
The principle of complementarity.
Right.
Right.
It feels like some people are trying to have it both ways. So they want to try to signal, okay, we're not cooperating, but if they want to talk to so-and-so, they're
This
free
is
to
the
do so.
way.
But if they want the transcripts of the congressional hearings, it's all public information. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Parang, okay,
It's
we're
one
not,
foot here and one foot
yeah,
there.
we want to say we're not cooperating, that they have no jurisdiction over us, but on the other hand, here are all the ways that you could access the information.
Right.
So, and this is why, again, the change of tune is significant, because it feels like political pundits would connect the dots here and say, does this have something to do with the unity and breakup?
I think this is
The
started with-
very ugly breakup.
With the Secretary of Justice Remulla saying, I think that was Jan 23, so the other day, about you know, drawing the lines of certain areas of cooperation with the ICC, like only here.
Yeah.
And that sounds very specific. Very specific.
But we will cooperate, but only up until
Yeah.
these parameters. But
only
before,
within,
again,
They would not have that conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Before it was
we,
like,
we
no.
will not lift the finger, we will not talk to them, we will not let them into the country, and so on and so forth. This was back in the day when the unit team was still intact, right? So what conclusion are we to draw from it other than it's all political?
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking, I wonder how much thought or rethinking E.S. Bersamin is doing about his statement, because he gave that statement as an answer to a question in a press con, and now we're all like, you know, tumbling, cartwheeling, trying to see, like, is there a change of tune? Is this a softening?
Yeah.
You know, I wonder
Yeah.
if he's like, you know, could have I said it another way? Or was that the best way to say it? Or
I
he
haven't
was like,
heard
my
him,
plan worked.
I haven't
mean,
heard him talk that way. He just affirmed what everybody was talking about. Kasi lagi si Justice Remulla nagsasalita pag usually dito. And now we hear it from E.S. Bersamin himself, who represents, of course, the president. Right?
and that was a very
It's very
lengthy press con
significant.
also.
My reading of him is that he tries very, very hard to toe the line and be moderate and try not to give anything away. Case in point, in the July 17 incident with the Chinese, when they
the Ayungin incident.
with a Ayungin incident, when the soldier lost his a finger and there was a that was a major incident, and then he tried to downplay it afterwards, saying it was a misunderstanding. Yeah, that's my read of him is, okay, he understands his position as the alter ego of the president, and then he tries his best to not give anything away, but the fact that he ends up saying all these things also then becomes policy in itself, right?
And let's not forget who Lucas Bersamin is. He was only the Chief Justice.
Just Chief Justice, exactly.
At some point, right?
One issue where the ES stood his ground is the blanks on the budget.
Yes, he was
that
adamant.
he said were outright lies. But the alleged blank items in the 2025 national budget have sparked all kinds of conversations and more questions as lawmakers key to the bicameral conference report remained silent on the matter. Malacanang has also distanced itself from the issue. Maan Enriquez reports.
Kong Stella, kindly lang ma'am explain yung blank sa BICAM report.
House reporters have been hounding congressmen who were part of the bicameral conference committee in recent weeks, trying to get to the bottom of whether or not there were blanks in the bicameral committee version. Though relentlessly chased by reporters, acting House Committee on Appropriations Chairperson Stella Kimbo remained mum on the issue.
Nagmamadali lang po
Sorry.
for the next event.
Yeah, we were waiting yesterday, ma'am. Any explanation about the blank? Just po.
Even the former chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico, refused to comment. The Makabayan bloc is urging their colleagues who are part of the BICAM to shed light on the allegations initially floated by Davao Congressman Isidro Ungab, a known Duterte ally. Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel on Wednesday corroborated Ungab's claim. Manuel said he saw a total of 12 blank items in agricultural-related programs, activities, and projects. 2, he said, were in unprogrammed appropriations. ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro said there were also blanks in the BICAM report that was ratified in the plenary.
Kasi dapat yung ni-ratify, kompleto na yun. Wala nang babaguhin doon.
Manuel also questioned Senate President Cheese Escudero's claim that the committees on appropriations and finance are authorized to correct or fill in data possibly left out in the BICAM report. Manuel said this is only limited to correcting typographical or grammatical and printing errors.
Ngayon, nagiging issue ito dahil bigla nagkaroon na ng amounts. No? Kasi kung papalampasin natin to, paano yan? Baka yung mga susunod na BICAM report, di pwede pala, mas marami pa yung blanco.
But for House Deputy Majority Leader Paulo Ortega, the alleged blanks on the 2025 budget is a non-issue.
It's really about politics. It works for them. Kung may controversy,
In the Senate, Senator Amy Marcos, for one, has confirmed that she saw blanks in the BICAM version and said that that was the reason she didn't sign it. Still, Malacanang maintains that there were no blank entries in the final GAA. When pressed, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin tried to distance the executive branch from it.
Whatever the former president was saying about this is a lie. Gusto kong malaman ng taong bayan na wala talaga kaming kinalaman dyan. Tanungin ninyo mga congressmen, mga senators. And that is all that we can say at this point.
When asked about the possible implication of looming legal challenges in the 2025 budget, Bersamin said it is speculative to comment until the palace sees the actual complaint that would be filed before the SC. Bersamin, a former Chief Justice, also says the Supreme Court wouldn't stop the budget from being implemented.
The Supreme Court will never stop the budget from being implemented. All right? I cannot understand if the Supreme Court will have that tendency to put a stop to it, even if any of those challengers will ask for a TRO. Because the government must function, must be run.
For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel flagged suspected smuggling, profiteering, and mislabeling issues during an inspection to Cartimar Market in Pasay today. Tiu Laurel said he observed vegetable packaging that did not conform with the DA's labeling requirements, and some of the labels were in Chinese. He also said there were products that he doesn't recall giving clearance for, such as tiger chilies, Chinese ube or Chinese yam, onion sticks, and broccolis that were huge, among others. Tiu Laurel says they will look into the source of these vegetables. As for rice, the DA observed general compliance with the maximum suggested retail price, though there was one that they found that mislabeled rice and sold it as fancy for 100 pesos a kilo, even though it wasn't. Tiu Laurel says they will roll out labeling rules soon.
May mislabeling ako nakikita or nagmi-mislead ng buyers, no? Yung dating may brand, ngayon wala nang brand, pero nilagay naman fancy. Hindi naman siya fancy. Tapos mataas ang presyo. So that will be addressed soon. Lalabas na yung ating labeling rules.
We circle back to our top story. The government's perceived softer stance with the ICC, and we'll be speaking with ICC Assistant to Counsel Attorney Cristina Conti right up next. Keep it here on The Big Story. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
Circling back to the top story tonight, could the Marcos administration be signaling a softer stance on the International Criminal Court? For that, we need some expert insights from someone with ICC connections. So let's bring in Attorney Cristina Conti, Assistant to Counsel to the ICC. But also, before we get into the nitty-gritty, just to make it clear again, if you could talk us through what your role, what your connection to the ICC is, because, you know, there's been a little bit of confusion over whether you work directly for the ICC or you just are aware of their inner workings.
Yes, good evening, ladies. I am an accredited counsel before the International Criminal Court. I'm listed as an assistant to counsel, but actually anybody can be qualified before the court as long as you present your credentials and qualify. So, but more specifically, I am part of the team in the National Union of People's Lawyers assisting victims of the war on drugs. And therefore, I have personality in the situation in the Philippines that is connected to the war on drugs. Right. In fact, we were one of the first few complaints presented before the court, groups presented complaints before the court. And well, we've been public about this. We are cooperating with the court regarding this investigation. And we hope to have some part during trial. We have to have some part in the representation of victims.
Attorney Conti, I wonder if you could weigh in on what we had been reporting. I'm not sure if you had dialed in early and caught the first part of our show, but the topic was whether or not the administration was softening its stance on the ICC, going from as far back as a year and a half ago, going from saying that no, we will not lift a finger to help the ICC and we will not let investigators into the country, to now, which is a more qualified statement along the lines of we will, what was the exact wording?
There's nothing we can do if they coordinate
We
or
will
course it
respond
through
favorably.
if they course it through the Interpol.
The Interpol, that's right. This is Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin saying we will respond favorably to the ICC if they course it through the Interpol. What did you make of all of that?
Well, they are correct. There is legal basis for the Philippine government to position that way. And if we were to connect specifically, parang we make the jump between the ICC and the Interpol and the Philippines, the ICC and the Interpol have a cooperation agreement. The Interpol and the Philippines have some sort of agreement as well, the Philippines being a part of Interpol through the NBI. And therefore, any warrant of arrest that is coursed to the Interpol will reach the Philippines. So clearly, there is legal basis for this, and we've been talking about this. There is Article 127 in the Rome Statute, a section thereof which says or talks about continuing obligations after withdrawal. So that's one. We still have continuing obligations. And to be frank, this is our I told you so moment. We've been telling the Marcos administration that you have to cooperate. There is legal basis. There is clamor from the victims. And for us, this declaration clearly points us to the direction that we have been insisting on in the first place. And on a last note, that position by Marcos, we were of the mind that it was wrong. And it will be politically costly for him. If I remember, we told him that you will be expending political clout when you say, sige, hindi na ako mag-i-investigate, hindi ko papayagang mag-investigate yung ICC. And at the same time, not investigating the case or the charges of crimes against humanity in the Philippines. But now, clearly, this is a call, or this is compelled by a call for justice on the part of the victims.
Attorney, can you qualify that conversation you had with PBBM? I'm supposing you had some sort of consultation about where things are at. Kailan po nagyari yung conversation or meeting ninyo? And can you provide us the context of that meeting?
Oh no, we did not have a meeting.
You didn't have a meeting.
These were exchanges of statements, so public statements.
Okay.
I think at the outset of his presidency, he made that statement that they will disengage. There was actually a point when Secretary Minardo Guevara, then later on who became the Solicitor General, wanted to clarify with the President about this premise of disengagement. Paano ba ito? How do you make it effective? Because at that point, the Philippines was in the middle of an appeal to the ICC regarding their request for deferment of the investigation. Because of these exchanges, parang tansyahan, as you mentioned earlier in your discussion, tansyahan, timplahan kung anong mangyayari. And now we're seeing the signals in the public statements. There are some efforts behind the scenes, sabihin na natin, where there have been some sort of, not really consultation, but running through some points like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? But I cannot say that we have been directly in touch.
Attorney, would you have updates as to the state of the case? Because we expect something to happen this year. Sabi 7 years ang usually time frame ng mga investigasyon ng ICC. What are we to expect for this year? Where are we at? And also, is the ICC considering the state of politics? Given that the elections are coming up, it might lead to a more polarized scenario. We also have the INC rally. I mean, all those displays of power nearing election time. Do we expect anything to happen before the midterm elections?
Well, the ICC isn't time-bound specifically by domestic schedules. So I don't think that They are looking at adjusting kumbaga, their timelines according to our electoral schedules. Of course, they're clearly watching. They know about this. And they might be weighing this in the context of, this is a factor, interests of justice. Would it be in the greater interest of justice to proceed with an investigation or to do something about it? But what I can say is that as regards the investigation on its own per se, we're moving forward. We talked about this at one of your previous episodes, the opening of the witness appeals. So this is a platform, a microsite on the ICC website where they're calling for witnesses to come forward. Later on, and then on the whole, there have been developments as regards issuance of warrants of arrest. We thought that warrants of arrest would have been issued in the Philippine situation by December. What happened was the Palestinian situation. So issuance of warrants of arrest against Netanyahu et al. Just yesterday, in the Afghanistan situation, we saw the prosecutor request for warrants of arrest in their situation. So things are moving forward in the ICC, and hopefully, we're up next.
I want to get your thoughts, speaking of investigation, on the Congress's conjecture to reopen the investigations on the war on drugs, on EJ case in particular, because you represent the victims of the drug war. One concern is their safety, bearing their accounts in these sessions, and also kung anong kahahantungan no. It's a very public hearing. Everybody might make a show out of it. What are your thoughts on that? And what are the families saying when it comes to those investigations being reopened?
We've heard mixed reactions from the victims regarding a reinvestigation of particular cases. I was there at the Quadcom when Congressman Abante floated this possibility. Father Noel Gatchalian had also floated the concept of a truth commission. But in a truth commission, it's more of catharsis. But with a reinvestigation, I put forward before the committee or before the Quadcom, that concept of security concerns. Not everybody would be happy to move forward and say and repeat whatever they have told the authorities before. And also, in some of these cases, remember that there is a category of killings of unknown perpetrators. We call this usually the vigilante killings. And even if they come forward today, I mean, it's unlikely that they could identify the persons involved. So for them, wala na, parang suko na. Ano ngayon kung mag-come forward pa kami? May mangyayari ba? So there is a lot of doubt on a large part of the victims. But then on the other hand, as a rule, I think we could support the reinvestigation of these cases as just a recognition na hindi nyo naman inimbestigahan in the first place. But I did say before the committee that perhaps we could give leeway or some portion or some pasintabi para dun sa mga victims na ayaw mag-participate. So, intindihin na lang yung sitwasyon nila. But on the whole, the concept of reinvestigating with the recognition or acknowledgement that you did not investigate or investigated poorly in the first place, that would be welcome.
Pero yun nga, attorney, kasi the other aspect or angle or view on that so-called formation of the Truth Commission to reinvestigate, and we were chatting about this earlier, how it would play into, di ba kasi we call on the ICC because it is perceived na our justice system is not doing its job or insufficient siya or wala tayong sistema dito at hindi effective. That's why kailangan mag-step in ng ICC. Now, if we start reinvestigating it, could this be perceived? Napaka-simplistic nito, attorney, so bear with me. Parang since gumagana na, ni-reinvestigate na nila, so kailangan, parang pwede na ba, baka makita ng mga ibang tao, pwede na ba itong rason kung bakit dapat na mag-step back yung ICC sa kanilang investigasyon?
Well, not immediately. So I agree, may ganung immediate or knee-jerk reaction na, ayan naman pala, gumagana, may nangyayari. But then again, we look at what the ICC does. It focuses on the most responsible. And when there is a investigation, I see mostly that the cases that will be looked into will be individual cases of killings. At ang masasangkot dyan, mga si PO1, PO2, SPO1. So it's the actual people on the ground who might be kumbaga, at risk of this investigation. But what is kumbaga, contemplated by the ICC as something that mirrors its own would be a massive looking into crimes against humanity. It depends on the parameters of this investigation if those who are quote-unquote most responsible will be covered. Kung aabot sa mastermind yung investigation, then maybe the ICC will step back. Pero kung hindi naman, hindi rin. And also, I would like to remind many, although I realize hindi nga nila masyadong sinusundan yung ICC. Sa ICC, uso yung merong kaso sa ICC, tapos merong kaso sa domestic. Sa domestic, we can clearly do this. There could be domestic prosecutions of small fry, quote-unquote, and then the prosecution of big fry or the big fish would be with the ICC. This is also in consideration of political tensions. If you sue or if you prosecute the big fish in your country, it might cause a lot of trouble or tensions. And so you could leave it up to the ICC. You can maybe go after the small fry, yung mga kernel, etc., kung kakayanin. And that will tell us, that will show us how domestic prosecution and international prosecutions can work in tandem.
And just to bring it back to Gretchen's original question, which I piggybacked on, is this something that, is that how you, kumbaga, explain it to the victims' families so they can appreciate it in that way? Because, yun nga, like you said, it's been so long, nakakapagod, natatakot, napakadaming concerns. So may chance pa ba na, kumbaga, mag-iba yung the way they view these parallel investigations if it comes to pass?
Yes, actually. All they want, parang for many, so imagine the victims, who will they sue or who do they hold responsible? For almost all of these victims, they say, well, I hold Duterte responsible. My kin, my husband, my son died because he ordered it. When he took office, actually when he campaigned, he said, I'll kill you all, sabi niya sa mga drug addict, criminal, etc. And then they died eventually. So it is in a way, simplistic na siya yung sisisihin namin. But at the same time, there were other people in play. So you had the police officers who conducted the killings, vigilantes who did the killings as well, and so forth. So there is a whole array of people involved in this, including those, and dito na papasok yung some sort of politics, including those who should have done something but did not do something. And I'm even looking at the Department of Justice, prosecutors, who should have prosecuted these cases as early as 2016, but did not. And so with this whole array of people, there are a lot of prosecutions that we could pursue. For many, they say that dun kami sa kayang mag-prosecute ng mastermind because that is where it will be most effective. Kung maparusahan yung mastermind, okay na kami, okay lang kahit hindi yung mismong pumatay. But on the other hand, you have a group of people saying, well, I would also like to see the persons who pulled the trigger go to court. And yung interplay nun could be solved with both domestic prosecutions and international prosecution. Now, if a domestic prosecution comes up na si Duterte ang target, we're feeling this with we're discussing it with the victims na okay ba sa inyo kung sa Pilipinas i-prosecute? They are contemplating it, but they are considering many factors. Una, would it be a fair trial or a fair investigation considering the power of the Dutertes? The daughter is vice president and she herself could be investigated because she was mayor or vice mayor of Davao during that period's covered. Second, would the possible involvement of a senator complicate things? Sitting senator, actually 2 sitting senators. Third, is there capacity on the part of our prosecutors and the courts na mag-prosecute ng crimes against humanity, yung pangmalakihan na? Kasi bago to first time yata na magkakaroon ng ganito kalaki. And lastly, it was promised. So last year, it was promised. For us, it was parang oh, ito na, paano na? Parang we thought we would have to decide. But it's already January and no charges have been put forward. So for now, we really put our hopes up or pin our hopes on the ICC investigation.
Speaking of the local cases, the small ones, how difficult has it been to get evidence on that? I mean, we are talking about law enforcement here, and of course, they're experts with collecting evidence, and it has been many years since those crimes happened, if they are proven to be true. How hard, how difficult has it been to produce that evidence?
Ako, I think Dr. Raquel Fortun, our forensic pathologist, will disagree with you when you said na they are experts at collecting evidence. On the contrary, they are experts at not collecting evidence.
Baliktad nga pala.
Baliktad at na-cover up. To put it in numbers, we saw about 200 cases. We documented, we reviewed, vetted cases, 200 killings incidents. We only proceeded and we were only able to go to court with one case.
And
One
confident
case
ba kayo?
where we successfully got a conviction.
Okay.
We were out of the 200, we were able to build up only 6. And of the 6, only 1 went to court. Buti na lang successful kami. So, it's going through, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, yung evidence. Kasi, as you mentioned, it's been 8 years, 8, or in some cases, 6 years. One thing that has been obvious is that the documents are with the police who would be the potential or the perpetrators in these cases. And if they choose not to produce these documents, wala. We've heard that with the CHR being blocked from getting PNP documents. Second, this is very particular, but this is very crucial. So remember, we're talking about shootings. And to establish who killed who, there is a test called the ballistics examination. So it matches the bullet, kung may marirecover ka sa body, na kung sabihin na natin, mahanap mo yun. So it matches the bullet to the gun that fired the bullet.
Right.
But it requires that as soon as possible after the shooting, you confiscate the gun and do the ballistics examination. You confiscate the gun and get the shell, and then you do the ballistics examination. Of the 7,640 cases of nanlaban, 7,640 as admitted by the PNP. Nanlaban lang to, official police operations, may namatay na 7,000. I don't know of any ballistics examination that has been presented by the PNP. And kaya at one of the hearings nga na-raise, where are all these 7,000 at least na guns or makeshift guns that were used in the nanlaban killings? Kasi ang sabi nyo, binaril kayo ng una nung mga patay.
Yeah.
At yung baril na yan, kinokumpiska. As to that, actually, the UN Office of the High Commissioner made a report in June 2020 or 2021. And they noticed that there were 5 incidents of repeating serial numbers of these guns na ginamit di umano nung nanlaban. So this would be a very important portion of that reinvestigation.
The lack of physical evidence has long been a problem. But let's shift gears before we ask your final question, Attorney. You went a little bit viral recently for, for figuring in an exchange of words with former legal counsel Salvador Panelo. Actually, we have that soundbite, and with your indulgence, if I could just play that very quickly for our viewers.
Sure.
Pero sir, may 6,000. 6,000 yung recorded in connection with the performance of the duties of the police. Kaya nga sinasabi namin ever since, i-demanda nyo. Sige sir, see you in the ICC.
Sorry, natatawa.
We were laughing after yung see you at the ICC kasi what happened after that? And set the context for us.
Literally, that was the ending of that roundtable discussion. And we were supposed to take a photo all together of the guests. He refused. sabi nga ni isang reporter, "Ma'am, ayaw makipag-picture sa inyo." Well, he left right after. So we did not have an opportunity to discuss further.
Okay, so yun na yun?
He didn't want to
Yun na
talk
yun. Sabi ko
more.
nga, anticlimactic naman to.
Nabitin kami, attorney.
Well,
You have rapport.
Sabi mo may mga investigahan parallel to the investigation of President Duterte. Si Attorney Panelo, masasama ba siya bilang spokes siya ng Pangulo? Or wala siyang kinalaman sa ganun?
But actually, it was funny because the topic wasn't the ICC
Yeah.
or the war on drugs. It was something else. It was about the situation then because of the INC rally and then what are the prospects of the impeachment. Napunta kami doon.
Right.
And if I recall, I wasn't the one who raised that. He was the one who became defensive. Kaya sabi ko, pwede nga, no? Although I doubt that there will be any opportunities further na makikita pa kami because I'm sure they will be avoiding me from then on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we were hoping that there was something more. There was more of an exchange afterwards, but I guess he really didn't want to talk about it anymore with you. Unfortunately, we also have run out of time for tonight, but thank you so much for your time and your insights. That was Attorney Cristina Conti, ICC's Assistant to Counsel.
Another quick break for now. But up next, a new Typhoon missile from the U.S. military has been moved to a new location in the Philippines, and China is not happy about that. The details when we return. Keep it here.
Today marks the second day of the Asian Tour Philippine Open 2025. Let's see how things are looking up for some of the golfers as they hit the fairways. Christian Bank, representing the USA, talked about his early struggles in the competition and how he was quickly able to regain his momentum proceeding the next tees. He expressed that weather was favorable as well, as he shared that it was much better compared to the first day.
I think everybody kind of played well. It was less wind than yesterday. So I think we were happy with that, not getting a lot of wind. I bogeyed the first hole, which was, you always want to get off to a good start, but a bogey that early, you're still waking up. So after that, I played great. Hit some good shots, and then I putted well. My caddy had some really good reads, and yeah, I just played pretty solid.
Gary Stahl of France, a first-time participant at the Philippine Open, talked about his thoughts playing in the country and in a new course.
My experience is very nice. I'm very happy to be here. It's new for me, Asian Tour. I play for the first time my first tournament here. The course is very good, so it's a good test. So we will see now.
Justin Kiban of the Philippines admitted that having many supporters come by the fairways have definitely boosted his spirits in the second day of the tournament.
I kind of know the ins and outs of this golf course because I play this every day, and I think it is an advantage because, like I said, I'm here pretty much every day. So it is playing a little tough because it's now par 70, but me and my mental coach, we just figured out something to trick myself to just play how I used to play, and turned out pretty good today, so yeah.
Having a 4-week break has shown some rust among several golfers. Travis Smith of Australia shared how optimistic he is moving forward in the rankings.
It's a tough golf course. You know, first event of the year, I feel like it's a shock to the system. I wish it was a little bit easier. You know, coming off like a 4-week break, not playing every day, game's probably not as sharp as what I'd like it. So it's a good test. It's a great golf course. It's my first time to the Philippines. And where I'm at on the leaderboard, I'm enjoying my time so far.
After first day jitters, Micah Shin of the USA admits that his second day showed better results.
Yesterday, on my first round, I wasn't hitting good at all. So I was like working hard to try to like keep my score. I got lucky, finished eagle birdie to at least stay under par. But today I was hitting it better, and I mean, I've been putting good since day one, so yeah, that's been helping a lot.
With still a lot of golf to be played in the coming days, leading the charge with an 8 under par is Thailand's Kaukanjana, following Micah Shin of the USA with a 6 under par, and Aaron Wilkin of Australia with a 5 under par. Justin Kiban from the Philippines lands at 11th with a 3 under par. This has been Bea Escudero.
You're back on the big story here on One News.
U.S. District Judge John Conner has temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's executive order denying automatic birthright citizenship. He called the EO code blatantly unconstitutional. The order, signed on Trump's first day back in office, was challenged by 24 Democratic-led states and cities. First heard was the multi-state federal lawsuit filed by Washington's Attorney General Nick Brown. Brown also represents Arizona, Oregon, and Illinois, which all invoked the 14th Amendment. With the federal court's TRO, the Trump administration cannot enforce its EO in the next 14 days. Another hearing is scheduled for February 6, and only then will it be known if a long-term block will be imposed. No TRO means children born after February 19, so undocumented immigrants will be denied automatic birthright citizenship.
The judge issued a temporary restraining order directing the United States government to take no further action in enforcing and implementing the unconstitutional and un-American executive order attempting to eliminate birthright citizenship in America. This is step one, but to hear the judge from the bench say that in his 40 years as a judge, he has never seen something so blatantly unconstitutional sets the tone for the seriousness of this effort. This is fairly simple. This has been expressly determined by the United States Supreme Court, and Congress and multiple executives have looked at it and agreed. And so I was not surprised to see Judge Kunauer sort of dismiss the absurdity of the order and the absurdity of the president's action. Well, we'll take one step at a time, but I see no reason why a court of appeals or even the United States Supreme Court would reach a different decision that was reached today.
Back in Asia, China has called on the Philippines to withdraw the U.S. Typhoon missile system that is currently based here in the country. The Chinese Foreign Ministry was reacting to reports that the U.S. missile launchers initially stationed in Lawag had been moved to an undisclosed location. This is a move that the ministry says could provoke geopolitical confrontation and an arms race.
It will escalate regional tensions and divisions, provoke geopolitical confrontation, and fuel an arms race. This is an extremely irresponsible choice for the security of both the Philippines and the people of Southeast Asia. We once again urge the Philippines to heed the voices of countries in the region and their people, correct this mistake as soon as possible, fulfill the previous public commitment to promptly withdraw the Typhoon mid-range capability missile system, and refrain from continuing further down the wrong path.
Meanwhile, the Department of Justice says it will sue China for alleged damage to the environment. This case stems from China's alleged harvesting of giant clams and substantial damage to coral reefs within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Justice Secretary Boying Remulla says the case buildup is backed by a lot of evidence from the Philippine Coast Guard and other agencies. They're just now in discussions to discuss which legal forum to file the case.
The Typhoon missile, by the way, the reason China is very angry about it is because number one, it wasn't ever meant to be here permanently.
Yeah.
It was just lent to us by the Americans during the Balikatan
drills.
exercises, and then before you knew it, it suddenly became here.
It never left
for an indefinite period, and this can launch multi-purpose missiles up to as far as China and Russia. So you can imagine the kind of scenarios that are going through their minds.
The
right?
long and short of it is that it's a mid-range rocket launcher, and so the missiles are able to hit them, and it's making them really.
Actually, that term is a bit of a misnomer. Mid-range sounds like it's not too far away, but if it can go hit as far as Russia,
Meron pa kasi
right?
yung ballistic, diba?
May mga
Mas
guided
malayo
tayo,
pa
diba?
talaga.
Oo.
But the defense of our defense ministry is that isa lang yun. China has so much.
At least it's here, right?
And
So-
also very easy to detect. Like meron nga satellite images noon, di ba? I guess it's a challenge. But ito yung mid-range typhoon kasi nagagalaw mo. It's
Right.
mobile. It's not stationed in one place.
Well, now we know it's really mobile
But
because
on
they
that
moved it to
note,
somewhere.
That brings me to our big picture tonight, which is a tangible thing, which is what I'm holding in my hand.
an actual
Take a look at
picture.
this. Here, actual picture. This is a replica of
Wow.
the 1734 Murillo Velarde map. And I guess you girls know what the significance of this is, right? This was used as critical evidence during our Permanent Court of Arbitration case at The Hague back in 2016.
This was a legal basis.
This is called the mother of all maps, and this is the first scientific map of the Philippine archipelago. And if you
Nandito yung Los Bajos de Paragua.
exactly here, around here,
oo.
the Spratlys, right? So this was commissioned by King Philip V of Spain and produced by the Jesuit priest, what was his name? Pedro Murillo Velarde, hence the name of the map. And it was acquired by the chairman of Now Telecom, Now Corporation, Mel Velarde. Coincidence lang yung same name.
Yeah.
From an auction in Sotheby's back in 2014, he brought it back to the Philippines. The actual map was given to Malacanang last month, and this is just a replica of it. But this is huge significance because China has no similar map like this that predates all of these maps.
Kumbaga na-map na natin yung mga features na yan.
Exactly.
Prior.
Well, na-map na ng
Ito.
Spaniards.
Well, okay, let's be clear, no?
If you
You
could
said,
see here, na-map na ng Spaniards here. Back as far back as 1734.
Those are the
And this was an
Spratlys.
official scientific map. And we know this because here, if you
The
could
seal.
just zoom in, here, this is called a cartouche, right? A cartouche bearing the royal coat of arms of Spain, which means this was an official map. And this, if I remember correctly, was the basis of
Yes,
the
it's the
1898 Treaty of
Treaty of
Paris,
Paris.
Treaty of...
And
Parang hindi
Washington.
ito yun. Meron pang mas kompleto
Meron pa isa,
rito.
correct.
Dalawang map
Pero this
yun,
was the
basis.
earliest.
Ito yung pinakauna.
Yes, this was the earliest. But ito nga, you have the seal, the cartouche, the Spanish royal coat of arms, signifying that this was an official map, and it became a crucial piece of evidence
The actual
in our
map
case
is
at The
now
Hague.
at the National
National
Library.
Museum.
That's
National
right.
Museum, but National Library.
National
You
Library.
can see it for free in the
it was-
gallery. It's a
correct.
new gallery there.
Correct. It was also presented to President Marcos last month. So this was.
Why do you have this?
This
Because
is a
the Mel-
gift
Mr.
from
Mel Velarde.
This is a gift from Chairman Mel Velarde to you guys.
who
So
owns
we all know
the actual map. Yeah.
Yes,
he
this is
owns
the
the actual map.
Well, no,
Well,
he
wanted-
donated it to.
he gave it back to the country.
government. He donated
But
it to
he
the
bought
government.
it for
These
12
are
million.
correct.
But like, you know, like you said, King Felipe V of Spain, that's actually who the Philippines is named after.
That's
if you're doubting the legitimacy and where this came from, how old it is. Right? He sent out his explorers. He said, look for new worlds and lands where we can expand to. And then, I guess he asked the travelers and the explorers to draw him a map.
Right, King Philip V of Spain.
King
Can you
Felipe.
imagine as early as 1734, we already had, it was
Naalala
already
ko na,
mapped yung Spratlys
yung
area.
Carta General,
That's
yun
right.
yung naging basihan ng
Which
Treaty
came
of
after.
Paris.
This-
Which
pero mas
map.
luma to.
Which came after this map. But yun nga,
And then
this
they
is
had
the significance
the
of the
Treaty of
Murillo.
Washington to make sure that part yung...
Correct.
Because
they made
define
it
to amend
boundaries.
na kasama yung the extra box dun sa side. But
we
anyway,
encourage you to take a look at it. It's at the National Library.
Sakto.
Library? Gallery.
TGIF, it is the
Oo.
National Library this weekend. You can probably take a look at it kung wala pa kayong gimmick.
So now you know this is the basis of our claims in the West Philippine Sea.
Nauna tayo.
Thank you in advance, Regina, for the gift.
Oo. It is a basis because China is arguing on a historical
Correct.
basis.
But history-wise.
Pag gusto kung historical basis ang labanan, meron tayo na una tayo.
Correct.
Pero still we go with the UNCLOS
Yes.
ruling.
Okay, pero overtime na rin tayo. And naghahantay na sila. Hi, guys. So that's it for the big story tonight.
We are One News All Sides all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night and a great weekend.
Stay tuned because coming up next is Play-by-Play with Andre Felix and Pauline Versosa.
TGIF, thank God it's Friday. But we were actually enjoying, I was even checking, sabi ko, first time I've seen the map.
Yeah.
And ang galing, it's very trivial.
Yeah.
Do you want to come here and touch it?
Ha? Kanina, gusto ko na-outfit.
Gusto niya makita.
Oo, gusto ko, pwede pa-check nga na mas
Pag
malapit.
National Library na lang kayo, mag-date kayo
Sa
doon.
National.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So you can see the original map
Yes.
that was commissioned
Nandun, it's there.
centuries ago.
Ganda. It's very trivial. Thank you for showing that to your viewers. And happy weekend. Enjoy your Friday.
Yes, happy weekend, guys. Kamusta? Hitik ba ang world of sports ngayong Friday?
Yes, and may guest din kami for tonight. So thank you once
Wow.
again to the ladies of the big story. Thank you to Gretchen, to Regina, and to Sean. We've got updates from the NBA, including the list of starters for this season's All-Star Game, plus the latest from the Australian Open men's semifinals.
And we've got Denise Zamboanga live in the studio to talk about winning the One Women's Atomweight World Championship.
Whew, I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Pauline Versosa, sitting in for Cheska Liton-Calo.
And here's tonight's play-by-play.